Hey, Tribe Builders, Tanya here, and I'm super fucking stoked for today's guest. She is absolutely fantastic. I got to spend some time with her in Denver. She is a fellow hospitable host. I don't know if you've heard me talk about, like, I've written a chapter in a book. She might actually be one of the OGs that actually wrote in one of the books because there's three versions now. I was in number three, she's in number one. We got to spend some time together in a house in Denver for a summit, and it was so freaking fun to get to know her because she has a business that's very similar to mine, but in a very completely different area of the world that makes it feel like, holy crap, she has a different skill set. And it's probably still quite the same, but it makes me go, whoa, Japan is different than Minnesota. So I'm really excited to talk to her today because she has all kinds of really, really good nuggets that anytime I talk to her, I get some. So I'm hoping you get some from today. So without further ado, Tracey Northcott, hi, how are you?
So, so happy to connect. Like, we just started vibing the minute we met, I think, right? So we were just
Yes.
like, I don't know, do you want to say sisters from another mister? I don't know. But we just like, I just, you know how sometimes with people there's like almost like a chemical thing. It's just like, I like you, and there's no, there's no sort of checklist or no sort of, no, like on paper it's, well, I'm going to get on with this person. There's nothing to say that. It's just, it just happens in the moment. And I think, even though we're from different countries and I'm from a complete we're different ages as well, it was just something that I really resonated with you. And I think we bonded. What did we bond over? It's like the terrible decor of the place we were staying.
It was, yeah, there was a couple of things there that made me a little bit irked, and I was very vocal, which a lot of people can get on board with, especially hosts. I mean, we commiserate together because we're like, how dare they not do this, this, and this? What are they thinking? And it's because it was a big management company. That's really what it comes down to.
Because we know how it should be done. And
Yeah.
yeah, or how we would always do it. So, but I'm always looking for tips when I'm going to stay in places. Going, oh, that's good, but and I think going and staying in a place like that said, oh, you know what, I'm okay. I'm doing all right.
Doing pretty good. There
I'm
was
doing.
still a couple of things that were really good. There was some wow in there that was like,
There
whoa,
was.
very unexpected. Like, pulling that door and finding like a downstairs speakeasy that wasn't a speakeasy. I mean, it was speakeasy style, but it had a karaoke machine down there and lights of dark walls and stuff. Like, I mean, there's some things that you can still pull from there that were like, there was a reason that people booked that place for sure because the pictures were fantastic because of their wow factors. But once you got there, it was a little lackluster.
It was just a little detail, so someone clearly hadn't stayed there and not recognized that. Yeah, you need bedside table lamps. Just like when you go to sleep, you need that. So yeah, just a little thing.
Yeah. Or, or a little thing like proper egress for, six people that could stay in the basement that couldn't get out a window that's the size of a book. That was
I
the thing that made me the most mad.
I was upstairs. Yeah,
Yes, you got one of the luxurious rooms upstairs. Totally cool. I just, I'm scared because Justin Ford made sure I am. I know that's not his point, but anybody that's listening that doesn't know Justin Ford, he is the foremost safety expert, I would say, in the short-term rental business, and his whole entire thing is just to get noticed out there that safety matters, especially for hosting, because short-term rentals are not actually the safest places in the world. They're one of the leading places where people in hospitality like pass away, perish, whatever, and it's just because of like proper egress and safety items like I don't know, the really low bar of having a smoke detector or a smoke alarm. So when you're at a summit and he's there speaking, you get a little nervous and then you just eagle eye everything. At least I do. That's what happened.
I've said for a long time that looking after people where they sleep is a big responsibility and there's a big duty of care. And we take that super seriously. We always did. Even so, I'm in a very regulated market where there's, to actually get a license to operate, you need to have a safety certificate that's been signed off on by the fire department. and that's a floor plan, and it's like you have to have commercial grade fire alarms and commercial grade like fire extinguishers. They have to be checked for making sure they're not out of date. They have to be placed in the right spot, and we've got exit lighting and all that stuff. But before that, it was the wild, wild west. And oh my God, like people were just like, too many beds, like too many heads in beds, which is just a recipe for disaster. And, there's fires and, oh, it's just, it frightens me. It really, really frightens me. But, we were doing stuff that was safe before these regulations came in
Before it
anyway,
was cool.
before it was cool. And just because, there's human beings staying there, and I just, and I just took that seriously. Yes, they pay money, and I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, you still have to. There's a duty of care that's important.
Yeah, and there should be, just because, I mean, I know we're not, like, we're very lucky that we don't have to be hotel regulated, at least in the States. A hotel is regulated very different than a short-term rental in most states. But knowing that you're still caring, like, it's a human life that's like in your in your house, and you should care, like, how are they going to get out? And like, I feel like the biggest recipe for a disaster I've seen a lot of is like people create bunk rooms, which I understand why you create a bunk room. All of a sudden you can fit like 8 or 12 people down here. And if you have a huge family, or you're, like for a bachelor party and there's 20 of you, that's great. But a lot of bunk rooms don't have windows. Like that's something I've noticed. They don't have windows or a door, like a second form of egress. And that's typically, like, if you think of a bunk room, the first person you think of that you would stick in a bunk room is a kid. Like, you're gonna stick 7 kids in all of those bunks, and those are the people that, yeah. I mean, I don't know if they would climb out a window anyways if it was there, because maybe sometimes they're really small. But if you don't even give them the window to begin with, that's the part that makes me go, "Whoo." So I've even started talking about, like, I mean, when you're booking a house, like with all kinds of people, like, you should be looking as the booker for forms of egress. Like, if there isn't a window in the picture, maybe ask, like, how do you get out of this, or what does that look like? The floor plans and stuff like that, because stuff like this, just, it does matter, and we don't always talk about it. Or, like, people just kind of gloss over some of those details, and it's like, I understand, it's really awesome. You could have a property management group that you can have hundreds of rentals, and you can make thousands or millions of dollars or whatever. But like, it only takes like one family to have a catastrophic situation happen, and then all of a sudden your business is all over the news. And who wants to be on the front page of the paper? I mean, we don't have papers as much anymore, but you kind of get the drift of, like, who wants to be on the front page of the paper with like something like that? That'd be
Didn't
awful.
take responsibility. You caused that, right? That's
Well, yeah, you'll probably be living in jail. Yeah. Like, I mean, truly, there's short-term rental people in the United States that are in jail right now, or
oh,
in
for sure.
prison, because truly they didn't have proper forms of egress, or they didn't have smoke alarms. Like, these are real stories. Like, this guy really does, like, Justin Ford really does talk about stuff like this, and you can find all of these stories all over the place. Like, my husband says it all the time. He's a crane operator, and safety definitely matters when you're in a tower crane that's 18 stories up, or 10 stories up, or 4 stories up. And he's like, the most successful version of my career will be never being remembered for what I did, like never being on the news for my crane tipping over or me dropping something on somebody." And I think I kind of just apply that to short-term rental land, that it's like, well, this is kind of a big deal. Like, we should care about like this. I don't want to be on the news because, 2 sisters died in my house because I didn't have a fucking smoke alarm. That's crazy town. And that stuff happens like every day in the United States or all over the world. So we got into something morbid really fast. I'm sorry.
Dark super quick.
Well, that was, but those are okay. Well, actually, this is a perfect segue into like the feelings of hospitality. And this is weird to say, but at the same time, the reason that we just went on this tangent was because of the feelings we had from staying in a house. And you can create a feeling in so many different ways. And because we're a little bit more advanced when it comes to short-term rentals, we created, like, we got that feeling because we knew the repercussions of it. Whereas we aren't people that necessarily do that. So tell people that are listening what you do. 10 minutes in.
I
You're
make
not.
I make I joke around, like, people, like only wrong answers. My wrong answer is like I'm a slumlord. No, I'm a short-term rental operator. I've been in Tokyo, so this may have come as a bit of a surprise to your watchers, listeners, that I'm based here in Tokyo, in Japan, and I'm clearly not Japanese, and I've lived here for 25 years, and I started. Well, the reason I came to Japan is actually I'm a software engineer. I make language learning software apps with my brother. And then after I had my child, we were getting lots of visitors. It was the time where Japan was like on the bucket list for every tourist. And it was like, well, I love all my family, but you can't stay with me anymore. I have a small Tokyo apartment. So it was just at the beginning of the vacation rental, phenomenon. So it was pretty early, and so I just rented a second apartment near my house, and I told the landlord it was for family and friends, and that was my goal. So it's for family and friends, and so I set it up as a basically for my mum and dad and my in-laws to come stay when they visited, which was a lot, and it was lovely to have a place where your mother-in-law can stay and have her own kitchen and have her own space, and it's comfortable for everybody, really. And then when someone's there for a month, it's pretty cool that they can have their own space. And I thought, well, I'll just put it up on the sites, for the rental sites, and if I break even, job done, happy days. And then there was then was just a massive boom. 5 years, and I had 15 properties. There's still arbitrage, so still rental and re-rent. Some of them were good, some of them were bad. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. And then one day I looked at my figures and just went, holy crap. Our business is 7 figures in sales. Like, what the, you know, will I
Wow.
curse?
Yeah.
What the
You
so
sure can. It was surprising.
And so it was like, well, hang on, I sort of stopped drinking the Kool-Aid of the, the big OTA in our world, and said, well, this is a real business, right? I pay my taxes, I have staff, I pay payroll, you know, like I have insurance, I actually run a full business. So I need to then re-identify as an operator, and that's also about the same time when regulations came through. So the regulations we were talking about before, so that the safety, and we had to sort of jump through a few hoops. It's like, well, what are we doing here? Are we serious? Is this, because I started it from nothing, and then started making money, and my brother started sniffing around, and my husband started sniffing around, going, what's all this here? Can we have a piss reduction? I'm like, get in line, buddy. So you can come work. You can come work for me. And so, and it was like, well, if we're serious, then we need to get licensed, jump through all the hoops, start up its own little business, and have proper P&Ls, and do it properly. So that's what we did, and that was 2015, 2016, I guess, and that was when the Olympics for Tokyo was being announced, and it was like, well, that's our 5-year plan, and so
Uh-huh.
we need to be up and running and be established, and be here for, our target audience was going to be for athletes, families, and people who were coming to, not just the people who were coming to watch. It was more about, well, let's provide a comfortable living place for athletes, families, and etc. So that was our goal, and that's how, and then from then on we were picking properties that were suitable for that. And Yeah, that was the goal. And then, of course, we all know what the dumpster fire the 2020 was. Um, and I lost $1 million in 3 weeks. Like,
Oof.
bookings in the can, bookings
Oof.
on the books, and then just like the PTSD from just having everything you've built for 5 years just go straight out to sea again. And I was like, come on, I'm a small business owner. I need to, I thought that year was going to be my year. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I've been working and working and working, and that was going to be the reward. But anyway, it is what it is, and you have to roll with it, and be, you know, be resilient and all of those good things. So,
We learn how
and
to pivot.
you learn how to pivot and you do what you do the next right thing. You can't foresee into the future, so you just got to do what's right in front of you and do the best you can. And yeah, it was a ride. It was a ride.
But you do this full time, and you've done this full time. You stopped doing software, language, software engineering stuff. You
Still,
do. You still do both businesses.
I definitely do. Well,
Okay,
but
that's
the
why
thing is,
you're so busy.
we're not a startup, right? This is we're recording. This is absolutely
It's all right.
it's all good. And yeah, so yeah, we still do that, but we're not a startup because my brother and I have been doing this sort of 30 odd years, right? So, um, and so it's just he and I basically, he and I and a couple of assistants, and it's just up on the App Store. We still have like 80 apps that are up online, and we don't need to do any marketing. They just sort of tickety boo, and they just roll over. Um, and we don't have to hustle, we don't have to grind, we just so it gives us time to that's why I started up the side hustles. You know my side hustles have been over 25 years here. I've owned a bar. I've had a real estate company. I'm now doing the short-term rental. I used to do subleasing as well. And so I've always sort of played around. Now I'm consulting as well. So I've always had I've always had side hustles. It's just maybe the ADHD in me. I just need to be constantly stimulated and searching for that dopamine. But my brother, he has his side hustles as well. He actually has a Korean K-pop bar now. Because yeah,
Obviously.
it's a thing. He's turning 60 next year, and he's sort of obsessed with K-pop. But he has a bar, and he also has an apartment in Seoul, and so he spends his time between Tokyo and Seoul. So
Uh-huh.
that's you're an entrepreneur because you get to follow your passions and you get to play and do things that are a little bit nutty and
Well, it kind of seems like you've actually made some money on some, monetized them enough that they were able to keep going when you were ready to pivot. Because I feel like I know I've found for myself that it's usually like 2 to 3 years that I really am into something, and then I'm bored with it and I want to like transition to something else. And right now, like short term rental land, honestly, I still love it, but I've kind of set it up enough that I don't have to run the majority of it. Like I run like maybe 5% or 10% of it. The rest of it runs with, a team of people that kind of do their thing. And I do have to pop in every now and again. And I still own the properties that we have anyway. So I still have to do that. But have you figured out then that there's like a transition point where you're going to kind of pivot out of it? So it sounds like you set up teams that still run it and then you just oversee that team.
yeah, well, I'm at the moment I haven't pivoted quite out of the general ops for the short-term rentals, which I'm trying to, but because it sort of grew organically, it was never really that organized. So, but I've actually spent the last year and a half making systems and processes so that it's not in my head or in my files. It's actually there's a digital I've captured all the data points for each property, and then that way other people can then can jump in and do it, because yeah, I'm getting burnt. It's like, yeah, I want to do more of the design and I want to do more of the play and like building these full size doll houses, but the day-to-day ops and the day-to-day like bookkeeping, I'm not built for that. I'm not built for taxes, and I'm not, it's important, I get it,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not built for that. I'm built for creativity and fun. And yeah. But what's your, like, if you've done everything for your short-term rentals, what's your latest, like, is it this, like, talking to people? What's your next wave that you're about to join, that you're about to run?
Mine is definitely about like coaching. Honestly, like I really, 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 and I know that you enjoy doing this too. You don't like formally coach, but I know you at least do pick your brain calls, which all of us do. There is like a certain level of human that you get to. And if you have a certain kind of personality, because it's not just everybody that wants to do that, but if you talk about the stuff that you do, people want to talk to you about that thing. I was at a water park yesterday with my niece, like my 5-year-old niece wanted to go swimming, And I was talking about real estate. At one point, there was an eye roll from this little 5-year-old saying, Tanya. And I had to like send my husband in the pool with her because I'm just like, yeah. Because this lady started talking to me about real estate, and I don't walk away from those conversations because I love it. And
And I think that's what's infectious for people. That's why people see how passionate we are and how it lights us up, and they want that for themselves. And so that's almost what we're transferring when we do these pick
yeah,
your brains calls, right? It's like,
uh-huh.
it's like you see how this is exciting for us, and how it lights us up. Yes, the money is fine, but it's the why. It's like the
Mhm.
essence of why we do it. They want to see that, and they want to harness that. And so, yeah, I'm happy to share that. But time is valuable. So yeah, so that's why I do the pick your brains, and it's what you do too. So, and we just
Yeah, like
we can
it's just
share
more
the
fun.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that part is really fun. I also have realized that it's actually like a power that I hold that like sometimes I kind of feel like whoops because I can get people really excited about something that they're not excited about. And I don't mean to. I just like I talk very passionately about real estate and the vehicle it is for the freedom that I want to have, and the reason me and my husband get to travel and I get to do things like I'm pretty much on all the time. Like it doesn't matter what country I'm in. Like if I'm going to Bali for 3 weeks, I'm still working. It doesn't matter. My husband is off pretty much the entire time, but I'm still like if there is something awry, like I can still hand it off to my assistant, absolutely, but someone still has to give some kind of direction, and that's me. So I think that's kind of the double-edged sword of being really excited about something because I am still excited. The excitement is still tops the fact that I'm on vacation and having to deal with things, but for some people, that's not worth it. And I've said to other people that we still need workers. Like we can't have everybody on the planet quit their jobs. Like that can't be a thing because I still need people that want to clean my houses, that want to inspect my houses, that want to repair things, like all of that stuff. But I can get people excited about things and want to quit their jobs, and I think that's really great. But yeah, I've kind of also noticed that not everything is for everybody. Like I used to flip houses. I don't want to flip houses. Like I had to find somebody after like 4 years to give me permission, which is wild, but I was so ingrained into it that I'm just like, well, I just spent all of this time and effort and money in learning how to flip houses, and now I don't want to flip houses. And it was just I wanted my marriage far more than I wanted to flip houses because, I would bring some of that stuff home and I'd get angry at my husband. And even though the plumber is the one I'm angry at, I have nothing to do with Matt. So I think that's the double edged sword of there's something for everybody that is really exciting. You just got to find, like, you have to test a lot of different things to find out, like, what it is. And then there's people like us that will do something exciting every 3 to 5 years. Like, I mean, and it'll be exciting for 3 to 5 years. Like, it'll still be, but we will pivot and do something different. And I think, that's the thing that I've just learned as I get deeper into my adulthood that I'm like, oh, I think I have a form of ADHD because I'm bored with this thing and I really, really like it and I can still talk about it. Like I still can talk about flipping houses. I still really like it and I think people should try it. I just don't think that's a long-term plan for me. So yeah,
What
it's
you said
wild.
there, I think I really resonated with what you just said there in terms of your, like, your husband when he's on holiday he's off, but I think that's what you and I vibe about, is that we're on and we love it, and we're actually energized by the passion, by energized by learning new things, and
Mhm.
energized by, just by talking about things that we're interested in, and we can go into, deep little rabbit holes, and that's actually what lights us up. Whereas I know my husband just goes like, just give me the remote. you know?
He's
Yeah,
fine with like his moving company that
correct.
does this thing and that he gets to turn off at 5 o'clock because or whatever, maybe he's off from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. because moves
Yeah,
don't start till later. Like that's the kind of stuff that's different, that it's like I've
correct.
just realized that our brains work differently. Like I didn't know this until I was married for probably 5 years. At that point we've been together almost 20 and I was kind of like, Oh, you don't think like me. And I truly did not know. And I think that's kind of what your 30s are for, is learning how different everybody is, and that it's not right, it's not wrong. We're just different. And like how we think. I'm just like, what do you mean? You're not thinking about 10 steps ahead? Because I'm thinking about next week or in 3 weeks, and he's only thinking about the next like 7 hours. And I'm like, holy crap, like who cares about the 7 hours? Like I'm talking about these other five things that need to get done over the next 3 weeks, and his brain doesn't work like that. And I did not know that. And I think if you get to know that and what your brain is good at, man, you can have a cool life. Because so good.
What I learned from my husband is that he's really, his boundaries are sacred. So, he's got
Good
very
for him.
clear, yeah, I know. And I was like, ooh, what's that like? You know,
What's that like? I know. I'm just, that sounds so neat. How
yeah.
does he do that? I
Well, it's
don't
just like,
know.
well, there's his non, like, it's like, well, I'm, like you said, he's done for the day and that's it. And it's like, and he's very clear about communicating those boundaries. It's like, well, no, I don't work between this time and this time. And I'm like, oh, you can say that? Like, it's like,
How do
yeah,
you say no?
yeah. How do you say no? Like, so that's been a good learning for me, because I'm like, okay, now that I know, I run, 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 and then burn, and then I have to stop. But if I then think, okay, well, where can I put that boundary so that I don't burn out? Like, and so,
Yeah.
and actually, because I'm so slack at it myself, I've empowered my executive assistant. She knows. She's actually
She
it's
knows your
her
burn
special.
right.
Yeah, and so I can actually tell her in advance, I need to block off this amount of time, or I need to ring fence this. And she's almost like my external gatekeeper in a way. And yeah, she's so used to what she's pretty neurodiverse herself, but she works for other women entrepreneurs, and it's almost like she specializes in neurodiversity, because there's a couple of women like me in Japan, and we kind of have the same, we share the same assistant, the same executive assistant, and
Mhm.
she just knows how to manage us. She wants us to be creative and like build the businesses and whatever, but she facilitates that and lets us. She doesn't want to build her own business. She just wants
She's good.
to.
She's doing exactly what she wants to do, and she's good
Exactly.
at. This is the whole thing of like not everybody can quit their jobs, because there
Correct.
are certain people that if you know your lane and you're really good at, like I've had to have so many conversations with people. You were just talking about bookkeeping and accounting and
Hmm.
stuff, and it's like there are people out there that effing love it. They're just like, oh my God, I get to hang out in your books for 6 hours today. And that lights them up. They're so excited. And me and you are the same. I'm just like, holy God, please don't. Like, I know I need to spend 8 hours over the next 2 months in there. And I'm just like cringing and avoiding and like, huh. But that's the whole point of like, there are people that love doing that. And if you're a person that is doing something right now that you don't love, go find the thing that you love. Like, and if you have to test some stuff out, totally cool. But if you already know you love being an attorney, then go be a damn attorney. Like, it's okay to like have that job. And same with like flipping or talking to contractors or cleaning houses. My cleaners love cleaning. Like, that's the beauty of finding people that want to do it. You're like, I want you to do the thing that, so your assistant, like she is, it's her jam. I love people that do stuff that's their jam.
Was really helpful when I got my ADHD diagnosis at the ripe old age of 50, let me tell you, was that I kept saying, well, what, like, I kept getting annoyed at myself and for things that I should, 'cause I hate that word,
All that
should.
damn shoulding. Yep, people should
You
all over
should, like,
themselves.
you should be able to do this. This is basic stuff. You should be able to do that. Like, fuck all the way off, right? It's like I don't know how to do this. And I was feeling so much shame and things that I was hiding everything. And even though I was really good at masking, at what, all of the excitement and things, there was all this little, in the back corner, there's like that little bucket of shame, like, and it was like, well, I should be able to do that. You know what? No, not everyone is built the same. And so what I did was I found someone who was excellent at that whatever, and it was like like freedom.
Yeah.
And it's just, and my business is just taken off like a rocket because I don't feel the need to try and do everything for everybody, and have the people who that's their skill set, and I give them a job. And it just, things just, instead of things just languishing for years in the should pile, it's like we just get done. And it's like,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
It seems like you found like I mean honestly that's really really good. A lot of people don't figure that stuff out. And just
Yes.
having this discussion I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've already done some of this and I need to do a little more." Because I think about like the text I just sent one of my cleaners seriously an hour ago. I'm like, "Hey, do you have extra time this week?" I know she needs extra money. She needs to run a couple of errands for me cuz I'm like dreading having to drive 35 minutes to go and deal with this because I know it's not going to just be 35 minutes. Like when I go to my houses, I check into them. Like I do a lot more. And then, my emotions are tied to, God darn it, this person isn't doing this right. And the reason I say my emotions are tied to it is because I know the reason they're not doing it right is because of me. So I'm just like, how do I just delegate that out, like, and that's the beauty of being able to just recognize that it's okay to have other people do it. It's not the worst in the world. And if your company can't sustain the money, then it either needs to be that you're doing this for a small amount of time, like you're putting this band-aid of this person on so that now you have extra time to make the money to pay for that person. Or if that's not whatever is going to work, then your business can't afford it and you probably can't afford to have a business. Is kind of what I at least think of.
It's just that you've got to stop, like, living by other people's judgments. It's like, other people go, well, that's easy. You should be able to do that. And that you take that on personally. And it's like, well, why are you telling me what's the best thing for me? Like, having that you need to give yourself permission to recognize what your skill set is and just go, you know what, thanks for that advice. That works for you, not for me. And yeah, it's still a work in progress. Like, because, you know, like as human beings, we're weird little animals in that, like, there's the image of what we should be or what is virtuous, or, and I don't know where that history comes from, but it's really, we're not taught early on just to sort of like have self-reflection and go, well, actually, what does make me happy? What am I actually good at? Like, rather than have other people project on you what they think you should do, like,
It takes 30 years to find out that you have to freaking do that, like that you have to figure it out on your own. And then it takes another 10 years to undo the stuff. And probably another 10 years after that to undo the mindset that's attached to the shoulds and well, I was expected to do this, or my dad has this company, so I'm doing this, or my mom was a doctor, so I'm going to be a doctor. And you don't actually have to be a doctor. Like it is actually okay. Like my parents totally want me to have kids. I don't care what they want. Like, they're not the ones who would have to wake up with the kid every night. So I've opted not to have the kid. And yeah, they would love that. But like, I'm the one who has to live with it. Like, or like live with whatever decisions I make. Not like, like I'm not, I don't care. People should have kids and they should do all the things. It's just not a choice for me. But it's true. If I lived according to what my parents expected or my mom or my husband's mom, man, my life wouldn't, they wouldn't see the version of me for sure. There's no way. And I love listening to this because I feel like, you, you're speaking like a woman that has gone through it. And it's because you have, because you've learned these things and been like, oh, that's why. And it takes time. It really does take time to undo. Like truly, like I feel like that's all what we're doing is like we're undoing the stuff that we learned when we were little. And, my resentments today of what I wish I would have been learning when I was growing up, I mean, they're just that. They're resentments that I can't do anything about. So it's a waste of time.
Can't sort of go back. All you can do is sort of have self-compassion. It's like, oh, well, I was living by those, you know, forced structures then, and but this is, you can't go back because, I don't know, there's that poem, like the road not taken. So you can never go back. You just have to keep going forward, and just do the best you can. And but like I said, there's so much outside pressure, and that's mostly the people who are the judgiest are the ones that are scared. The ones that are
Oh,
scared
yep.
to live their own life, they're the ones that are scared to forge their own path. And you just got to be able to have the resilience to block them out, even if they're people that you love and that they're close to you. You go, thank you, I really appreciate you, and then just do whatever you need to do. You
Yeah.
don't, because you can't. And remembering they're living within a certain constraint of their own self judgments and whatever. So no one is an expert in life. So like
We all kind of
there's
get
no
out of it
boss of you.
alive-ish.
Yeah, so there's
Yes.
no boss of you, right? But most of us are just so used to following rules and following orders and following authority that you're like, are we okay? Am I all right? And then I mean, because we don't want to be that narcissist who is, completely oblivious to everybody else. So, there's a
Good
there's a
times.
trade-off.
It's good
Yeah,
times.
yeah. Mm, mm.
Okay, I want to ask a couple of questions
Go
now.
for it.
Can you tell me about, so I like to kind of make connections between what's seemingly random, but they actually aren't all that random. So tell me about a time that you met someone in an unexpected place, like, in line at the bank or on a plane or something, and that person ended up playing like a meaningful role in your business or your life. Like, how did that happen?
Uh, I was sitting on a plane, and I was coming back from Australia, and um, it was the borders had just opened after the pandemic, and I had a visa, so I've got full residency here in Japan. But for tourists, which are my bread and butter, but for tourists and for people with working visas, they weren't allowed in for years. And then the borders opened for people that had new working visas. These weren't people who had been already existing visas. And so I was on a plane. I think it was the first day that the restrictions had lifted for people with working visas. There was this excited young woman beside me on the plane. She was so eager. She was so excited, and she was just so happy. Um, and because and of course I'm sitting on a plane by myself and I had 8 hours to kill. So I started talking to her, and it seemed that she'd been looking forward to going to Japan on a working holiday visa for years. And finally it came through, and so she was sitting on the plane, and she was sketching, and we started talking, and she was coming to study Japanese on a working holiday, I think student visa or working holiday visa, and wasn't quite sure. But it turned out that her background, actually, she'd been working for a social media company, um, and on an agency. So she was thinking of teaching English or something just to make ends meet. And so it's like, well, do you really want to do that? It's pretty soul destroying. So I hired her as my first outsource, because it was only then that the borders were opening again. So I needed to restart my marketing, and me doing this. So I was doing all the things, and really wanted to outsource the social media side to someone who had a creative eye, who was able to, put together you know, knew how to use Canva. So I hired her. She was a young woman, and I felt really proud of myself that I made this connection on the plane, and I'd helped her out because she was new, and so I took her under my wing, and sort of felt like I was mentoring her, and so and then she's now back. So ironically, she's now back in Japan again, and she's taken up a position with Jet, and so I'll be catching up with her again. So yeah, so
So awesome. Yeah, I love that. I like that. I like to ask that question because I just want to show so many people that you can meet people in the most random ways and they can change your life. Like, I mean, truly, there's so many airplane conversations. I've had so many people talk about airplane conversations that have changed their life completely. And if you don't at least, maybe put out the olive branch, like you'll never know. You'll never meet the people if you don't even try.
exactly. It's just I mean, always in the mood to be friendly. I get it,
Hmm.
but just listen to your instincts about who is around you, and because you know people are great. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, there's some pretty awful people out there, but for the most part, everyone's just doing the best they can, right? So, and it's just a matter of being, you know happy to be vulnerable a little bit and put yourself out there a little bit, and then listen to what other people are saying, and then and Yeah, just so that's my philosophy. My husband's always laughing at me because I'm always sort of said, having random conversations in the bank line or, at the side of a pool like you were yesterday. And yeah, so I'm that person. I'm that person who's always up for a chat.
Yes, the upper chat is a good way to put it. Me too. Okay, so now tell me, I'm trying to also start showing people like how we can create opportunities out of challenges. So, can you think of a time that you were challenged, like there was a thing that blew up, whatever, that just like entrepreneur life throws us curveballs all the time. So, tell me about like how it started and how you pretty much created it or made it into an opportunity of awesome. This now works so much better, or I had to change the way I was doing everything because this thing happened and now it's better, like something around those,
It's all
you know,
covered in my
details.
chapter in Hospitable Host books. uh, because that's pretty much my pandemic experience. So before the pandemic, I was pretty siloed on the Japanese market. I was really focused. A lot of what I was doing was analog. I had a website, but I wasn't doing a lot. I didn't have a tech stack. I was doing some automation, guest communication automation, but mostly it was pretty analog with the website and then just connecting the channel managers to the sites. Pandemic hit and it was like, what? So we all just hunkered down. It was like, well, I need to find my people, because this is depressing. I can't just sit on the floor I can't just sit on the floor numb for the duration. So I connected with people abroad and found the community that now I like you and I are involved in, and it's just changed everything. So we hunkered down. We broke everything down. The houses that weren't going to work, we shut them down. I put all the best stuff in storage, all the furniture and all the tchotchkes and all the things that I loved into storage, thinking, with the hope that it's going to change. Um, Perhaps I didn't realize it would have lasted 3 years, because it did last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, that we were shut down. I if I knew then that it was going to be 2 to 3 years and not 6 months, which is what I kind of thought, I may have made a different decision. I may have gone into a corporate job, or I would have done something else, because it just kept going, like languishing and languishing. But I spent that time learning. I spent that time like communicating with people in other countries, and it was like, oh, okay, my version of hospitality actually translates. Um, so the way I treat people and the way I believe that people should be treated, um, in our business is is universal.
Mhm.
And so that was really great for me to find like-minded people. Yeah, all of our individual businesses look different, but I think our underlying philosophy is that, like giving the best experience that we can, like, treating people with respect, showing them, and then just giving a little bit of ourselves to our guests at each stage. So that's what complete change. And then of course I learned all about tech stacks. So I learned all about automation. I learned about some really cool software tools, and now I've integrated. So then we've rebuilt, and I've put a lot more. It's a lot more professional now. So if we ever had to, exit the business, it's a saleable asset now. That's what I've had in my brain, rather than it being attached to us. Our brand is our brand is something that we could sell with goodwill, and also with a whole bunch of systems and processes and things that, we could sell to somebody else and then exit. So that has been the biggest change, I think.
I
Sorry,
think
that's a
that's so
very
awesome.
long answer to a short question.
No, it's okay. And no, it makes sense. Like, I mean, how we evolve is really, really important. And kind of knowing, I'm looking for these little keys that at some point we all have to pivot in some way, shape, or form, whether it's health, business, life, relationships. It doesn't matter what it is. We all have it's going to happen inevitably. Like if somebody is going to live the typical lifespan, I don't know, is like 75 or something. We're just going to use that number because other countries maybe it's different. But whatever, if you're going to live 75 years, you know that things are going to break every 10 years. Like it's inevitable of like something is going to change. So I think having these little keys to collect through and knowing, oh yeah, I can pivot this way. because this person did it, and if they can do it, I can do it, right? I mean, that's just kind of how life works. And this is the reason I like business so much, is there's so many different ways to do it. There's, thousands of ways to skin the cat, and I'm not sure why we're skinning any cats, but the saying is the saying, so I can't, I didn't choose it, so don't worry. I'm probably gonna have to Google that now. Shoot, the skin the cat thing is now gonna bother me. My ADHD brain is gonna be like, what the fuck's that mean?
Well, I have an app for that. So you can look up you can look
Just
up
the
the
internet.
you can look up the etymology of the idiom, and I have an app for that.
Oh my
So
God, you literally have an app for that. Oh God, I've got so many questions for you outside of a podcast about this
yeah.
stuff, because now I know you have 80 apps. That's fucking wild. But I'm not going to digress. I'm going
Nope.
to keep it going.
Hmm.
So tell me, like, we were just kind of having a conversation about, you had said, like, there's certain people in your life that might not support the kinds of things that you do. So I call this like the best advice did not come from Aunt Karen kind of situation. So can you think of, or like, what's a piece of business advice you've gotten from someone in your industry that really stuck with you, and, it helped you either level up, avoid mistakes, move faster, whatever?
Guess I'm sort of wanting to channel my late father, who always, he said to me a long time ago, what his life lesson was, that people think that you join an industry and that's your industry. So, you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer. Whereas he found it much more interesting to be in the world where he may not know everything, but at least he wants to go and find out and be able to have curiosity, and not be locked into like constraints of a profession. And so he taught me a long time ago, like, if because I was, when I was going through high school, it's like, what am I going to do? Because I was considering medicine, I was considering a lot of things. And what he basically said is, don't limit your future. Don't put walls around what you can do. So have something that's more of a general degree, and then, because what you want to do when you're 40 doesn't exist now. And so, uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you really love being a doctor and if you really want to be a healer, then do that, absolutely. But if you're unsure and you're just picking it because it sounds fun or it sounds interesting, like you're locking off a lot of other things. So, and so what I did learn from my dad was curiosity, and like, and it used to drive me insane because I was like, Dad, how do I spell this word? And his answer was always, look it up in the dictionary, look it up in the dictionary. And it would just like, just tell me the answer. It's like, no, what he was teaching me was how to find out for myself and how to be resilient, and not just give me that like instant message. It was like, he was teaching me how to learn and how to and how to expand, and give me courage and trust in myself that I could really tackle any problem, just do it by doing your best. So again, and
That's
ironically now I make dictionaries for a living. Well, no, well, like,
a
well,
version of a dictionary.
I make dictionary apps, right? So
Yeah, well, it's a
yeah,
version of a dictionary, right? Because literally what he said came to fruition. Like, what you were thinking of back then doesn't exist yet. Well,
yep,
dictionaries, they kind of
dictionaries
don't
are like,
exist anymore, which is
yep.
so sad. Like, I totally used to have to write reports with a dictionary, and ours were read, and we had the whole entire system. And oh my gosh, there's kids out there that don't even know what they are.
My whole, like, I've got a whole wall in my office, in my my software office, but that is just every single dictionary in paper, and it's delicious. It's delicious. So um, and
I love
and
it.
we want to probably archive them. And I was talking to my brother recently, and it's like, come on, what do we need paper dictionaries for anymore? And he said, this is our legacy. And I'm like, going, yeah, but we have to store it. Like, um
We have to pay
uh
for the space for the legacy.
yeah. We have the office, anything, but it's just like, I could really use this space for something else. But well, anyway.
Any
But
other book.
but yeah, that's the
uh,
business advice I got, was just to from dad, was just to be curious, and like, don't accept that, even if you don't know something, you can always find something out. And this is pre-internet, right? This is this he was telling me, this pre-internet. So basically he taught me, well, if you don't know, you know someone who knows who knows someone who knows, right? And so it's a matter of communication, asking questions, and then asking questions of the right people. And if they don't know, just not
Hmm.
just don't just sit in ignorance. If you need to know something, go out and find it. Mm.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good lesson
Yeah,
on that. A ton of people could use some, advice on.
exactly. Yeah.
And this actually kind of brings me to the next one is like, I'd like to ask you more about your board of advisors. Like I call them my board. I totally have a board. They don't get paid and they don't know that they're on a board and they don't meet together with me, but I definitely go to them. So who are your people that you go to regularly for feedback, brainstorming? Like how did those relationships, even come about?
Thought partners. I call them thought partners. Sounding boards. I've got Um, I have a few trusted people who know me really well, who I can, who I can let it all out without being, they without judgment. They can give me feedback and actually feel confident and to tell me, Trace, this was something, you could have done it differently here, and without judgment though. Um, and sort of hold my feet to the fire a little bit in terms of, well, that was a choice you made, and this is the consequence. You could have made a slightly different choice, and it's like, and I trust them enough not to go into shame spirals and not to go into not to be defensive about that. I think that's the important thing. People should know you and love you enough to be able to give you feedback that's not blowing wind up your bum, that's not like not being sycophantic. It's just being, having real talk. And I respect that so much. And I try to give that, it's not all the time. Otherwise it's sort of, that would get a little draining. But I do have a couple of people for different, and they're different, right? So it's like, if I'm sort of talking about interpersonal things, or if I'm talking about business things, or if I'm talking about um, hospitality things, that there are people that you can talk to that will give you honest feedback, and as long as you give that same courtesy back to their life, because remember, no one's an expert, and we're all just doing the best we can. So if you get that gift from somebody, I really find it, my duty to feedback and give equal time to that person's queries. And there are some people that I don't take advice from. I'll hear and go, yep, thanks for that. And that's but you can't just, if you they mean really well, but it's like, well, you haven't been in the trenches, right? You haven't been down and dirty, and you haven't, like, fought and kicked and screamed when there's been issues. You haven't been down there in the where do gladiators go? You haven't
Oh
been in the
yeah.
arena. If you haven't been in the arena with me, I'm not going to take your business advice, right?
Yeah.
I'll
Hmm.
listen to you and say thank you very much, but I'm not going to take it on unless you've been down there with me, and like roll your sleeves up and in the mud and whatever,
Hmm.
if, metaphorically, of course, but someone judging from the cheap seats, I'm yeah, that's not they're not my people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing to discern because there's a lot everyone will give you advice. Like I mean, like I had said,
Uns-
we don't
Unsolicited.
always take advice from yeah, Aunt Karen. Yes, very unsolicited.
Mhm.
And it's fine. You can either like shut it down or you don't have to take it. I mean, like you can let it bounce off of you and just be like, "Okay, thanks." Like somebody that doesn't have a business doesn't know what the heck you're talking about. They don't know about bookkeeping and well, it's so easy. No, just leave me alone.
Actually was I listen to a lot of podcasts, clearly, and there's someone I follow, an Australian woman, who's a money mentor, and she has this tip that, because she's an entrepreneur and she's a female entrepreneur and been doing it for a long time. There's a lot of people at like family gatherings that are, oh, you have a nice little blog, do you? And a bit dismissive and a bit like, they don't
Yes.
understand because you're not an accountant or a lawyer or something that they understand.
Mhm.
And that's just their perception. So she's got this little trick. Instead of sort of getting defensive and starting to have to defend yourself and starting have to explain, she's got, like, if you're at a function or at a family gathering, you just sort of bean dip. you know, do you want some dip? And you change the subject. And it's just like that way you just change the subject, you haven't been rude to them. And you just offer them some food. She calls it the bean dip method. But it's the same thing. It's just like, some people just have their frame of reference, just they won't get it anyway. So don't waste your breath. So
Yeah.
this is your Aunt Karen. And so you've just got to have that resilience and also the self-belief that you're doing the best you can, and that
Hmm.
your goals are also important, and the unsolicited advice, well-meaning, is not helpful. And you've got to, you don't have to listen to every advice. Look at where the advice is coming from and then decide whether or not you're going to take it on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really good point, and it's
But yeah,
something you have to
bean
learn if you want to have a
dip.
business. It's just bean
Bean
dip
dip.
them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to write down the bean dip
Well,
approach.
yeah,
Um,
because people remembering they're assessing your life through their filter, right? And through
yes,
their
through their
projection,
lens. Hmm.
through their lens. And while they mean well, their experiences is their life experience is very different from yours, and that's
Hmm.
okay. And they mean, like I said, while they mean well, that if they haven't been where you're at, you don't need to take their advice. So.
Yeah, totally not worth it. Completely agree.
The peanut
um,
gallery or the cheap seats. I mean, there's a
the
lot of
peanut.
there's a lot of there's a lot of idiom, and there's a lot of like cliches about that, because that's the human existence the whole way through. It's like, quiet from the cheap seats, and or yeah.
Yeah, we all want to weigh in. We do. Like I feel the need to weigh in too, and sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, oh, this doesn't matter. You don't have to listen to me. Sorry. I'll take it back. I'll take it back. Okay. If somebody wanted to come to Japan and start doing real estate investing, I hear you've connected people. This is one of the reasons I actually, found out about you and realized, holy Hannah, you'd be perfect for the podcast because you do this real estate summit that brings all kinds of people together. Can you talk about that real quick?
Was popped up during the pandemic, and the clubhouse days, and so I got together with a couple of, I sort of joined a couple of different rooms, and there's a couple of people I knew, that were also real estate nerds. So there was a real estate agent, so he did a lot of residential sales, and then there was a commercial real estate guy, and we just started hanging out together. One of them had then a YouTube channel, and so we just got together once a week and just sat around and recorded for an hour and just talking, like just nerds talking about Japanese real estate. And so that was sort of for a couple of years, and we had a lot of content like built up. And then it was like, well, now that the borders are opening, we're desperate to be in the same, like, do not give me another, webinar nonsense. We want to be in a room with human beings, right? So we did the first one. It sold out within a minute. So it was a day. We had, like, one of us was talking about short-term rentals. Hello. One of us was talking about buying residential. One of us was talking about buying commercial properties, multi-family homes, and bringing in money from abroad to buy, buy investment properties. One of them was talking about my good friend Blanca, talking about, she runs a renovation company. She's badass. She runs a construction company. I'm like, like she's my people. And then there's this other chap. So here in Japan, you probably have seen a lot of people talking about how cheap you can buy abandoned properties and it's like Italy. You can pick up a
Yes.
property, but you can drive
Dollar.
it. Yeah, so
You
you
have
can
to go
buy
there
it.
though, by the way, and like live there and like raise kids there to get it for the dollar.
Not necessarily in Japan. So this is a
Yep.
thing, and it's really growing. Um, so each of us had, speaking spots for a day, and it's sold out. And it was just, it's like, oh, okay, so this is a thing. So we've been doing it every 6 months now, and we're 3 years in now. So this in October is our sixth or seventh one that we're doing. It's 2 days now, and we have and it's streamed as well, so you don't actually have to be on site, and everything's recorded, so you can like it's a non-profit thing. We actually just charge enough ticket price to cover all the costs. So you can go back and see all the past presentations. And so there's someone who talks about taxes, and someone talks about, like, inbound. So there's so many people who are, like, I'm sorry to say, bugging out of the US right now. And there's a lot of people looking for their exit and looking for ways in which they can fund their retirement, or have a, have a really interesting place here in Japan, because Japan is great. There's a rule of law, everything works, logistics are fantastic. It's a, it's a developed country. It's not like going to like sometimes if you go to Thailand or a Southeast Asian country, there's a lot of corruption and things like that. But here in Japan, it's very transparent and clear, and you can come and buy property in a rural town next to the beach, and have a holiday house. And if you know which end of a hammer to use as well, you can do it up yourself if that's your thing. You can, or you can do something and have as a long-term rental investment property, and have like Japanese families in there, or you can do it as a monthly rental, short-term rental thing as well, be in a ski resort. So Japan's not a monolith. It's so nuanced. And I think what the real estate summit is all about is digging into all of these little nuances. And it's really nerdy. It's really real estate nerdy. And there's a lot of people who have done some really fun stuff. And we also have there's a lot of show ponies right now, a lot of influencers, and they're speakers as well. And I give them a hard time. There's a there's a Swedish model, Anton, who he was one of my clients a while ago, and he's now got this like massive YouTube following. And he buys properties, and he tracks his renovation. He's on the tools himself. He does the work. So he's not just a show pony, even though I give him a hard time. There's lots
Even
of
though he's handsome like one.
Oh, he's very handsome, and but there's like he's young enough to be my son. So he's all these sort of gratuitous, like shirtless, like construction photos like this, and like I'm on the
Yes, he's
tools.
modelly.
He's modelly, and and he's hilarious. But he doesn't take himself too seriously at all. And there's a bunch of others like that. And so we've sort of tried to curate a really interesting community of people who get Japan, who want to invest in
Mhm.
Japan for the right reasons. And we probably want to see ourselves as gatekeepers. I mean, we're living here by choice. We love it here.
Mhm.
And we want to share that with people who have those same values. And we want to
Mhm.
make sure that it doesn't get, it doesn't change it's going to change, of course, like life changes,
Mhm.
but we want to make sure that people come in for the right reasons and have the right, they want to have the respect for the properties and the communities, because Japan is very, very community orientated.
Yeah.
So Tokyo's not one massive city of like 35 million people. It is thousands and thousands of villages that are all just together, and each village has its own community leaders, and that's one of the things I really resonate about life in Japan, is that it is not a monolith. Everything is very community based. I'm in a neighborhood where everyone knows who we are. My kid has grown up here, and he's we're not the weird foreign family. we you know we're part of the community, and people know that, because I've been pretty nerdy about it as well. I've really made sure that people see that I'm doing the right thing, and I'm invested in the community, and that I'm taking my trash out the right way, and that, like, during the festivals I've got the signs on my door, and I'm never going to be Japanese. I get that. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to be Japanese, but I still want to be respectful, and live
Want to
my
show
life.
up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and be, like I said, I'm never going to be Japanese. I'm not trying to be Japanese. All I'm just trying to do is show people that I'm here by choice, and this is why. So,
Mhm.
again, Long
Yeah.
answer to a short question.
Okay, so I've got one last question and then, how to for people to find you, but
Sure.
what would you say to someone that's doing it alone? Like if they're building their business right now in a silo and they feel like they're the only ones, they don't have support or peers or anything like that, what would you tell them to do and what impact it makes to, build a tribe around you of some kind?
There is so many ways to run this business, so many different ways, and the way that you and I run it is very different from the way other people run it, and that's okay. So just start talking to people, like find Facebook groups, and then see if the things that people are talking about resonate with your values. Um, and with how you see hospitality, how you want to show up in your business, and how you want to be treating your guests, and find people who also share those values. And if they're like, there's a ton of YouTube stuff out there, and so just expose yourself to as much as possible, and then someone who says something that resonates with you, dig into that a little bit more. And it doesn't mean that you have to sort of start drinking their Kool-Aid or like join their cult or whatever. Be careful of that. But just trust your instincts and trust your nervous system. And I think that's what I've learned as an adult. It's like my nervous system will tell me, my spidey sense or whatever you want to call it. I'm not woo-woo and I'm not witchy or whatever, but it's just, you get that, listen to your instincts, because you're not wrong. And you're all your life experience is giving you the answers. You just have to trust that your life experience is valid, and that it's yours, and you don't have to live anyone else's life. So sorry, I'm getting a bit woo woo here, but find your people, by just asking questions, and remembering that hospitality is hard. And so we have a very strange existence. We look after people where they sleep. We see behind the curtain. Like, sometimes I wonder, how do people not fall down more? But with it, it's like, how do you pay your, like, sometimes it's like, I don't want to be judgy, because, I love all my guests, but it's like, how do you how, how
Yes.
do you function as an adult? Like, but that aside,
Yep.
we do live a strange existence, and we see behind the curtain that a lot of people keep hidden. So we also need people who understand that really weird experience. So, you know, like, yes, we have to look after our guests, but we also have to look after ourselves, because our
Mhm.
nose is pressed up against the glass of people who live a different life from us. And we can't
Mhm.
get jealous, and we can't get, because there are a lot of high net worth individuals. If you let it bother you, then you would get angry and bitter. And hospitality burnout is
Yes.
real. So
Mhm.
find people who understand it, who get it. And I'm not saying my tribe is the only tribe or your tribe is, like, just find one that meets your values, and that you feel comfortable and you feel seen, and that you feel like you're also contributing to and help other people, and like your experience is valuable, and that you might be 3 steps further ahead than someone else. Share that. Don't be, you know share that experience, because there's no textbook on this. It's like, um, and the business that I was running 15 years ago, 10 years ago, is very different from the business that I'm running today. And I've just adapted, based on, for a lot of reasons. Like, travelers are different. The market's different. Japan is different. So you can't just get stuck in one way and one rut. You've got to talk to people and take the best ideas from what you see, and then reject the ones that you don't agree with. So yeah, bean dip. So,
Love that. Okay, Trace, if somebody wants to book a pick your brain call or follow you and see, what you got going on, like where should they find you? Where would they do that?
I'm not a woman of mystery. I am not hard to find. My website is tracy-northcott.com. I have an Instagram, which is the Wholehearted Host. Um, So I'm still struggling to finish my book called The Wholehearted Host, but you can find me on Instagram at The Wholehearted Host with a W, and so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I've got my website, and also you'll drop the links here, so won't you?
Yep. The links will be below. If you want to follow Tracey, you should. And she's a really good sounding board. I've actually done some of that with her as well. Like you can hop on a call with her and just talk about hosting, and it's actually quite delightful. And it's really fun to talk to somebody from a different country, honestly, because there are so many things that we do the same, but you might get a couple of ideas that you never would have thought of. So thanks Tracey for the time. Like this was so fantastic. I know that we could talk for 7 hours and we would still have more to talk about. So I'm gonna cut it off anyways. But I appreciate you spending the hour with me. And Tri Builders, thanks for listening today.
Thanks. Love you. See ya.
Bye guys.